The day began like any other, until the city's emergency sirens erupted into a relentless chorus. Initially, it was easy to dismiss it as a routine drill, one of the countless exercises designed to prepare citizens for disaster. But as the minutes stretched into hours, the sound never truly ceased. It ebbed and flowed, persistent and metallic, like a heartbeat you could not ignore. There was no reassurance in the announcements, only a growing sense that this was not practice, but the beginning of something far more pervasive. Authorities issued statements insisting that the drill was temporary, that everything was under control. Flyers, social media alerts, and automated messages reassured citizens repeatedly. Yet the city itself told a different story. Roads were blocked, emergency vehicles patrolled endlessly, and instructions seemed contradictory or impossible to follow. It became clear almost immediately that the official narrative and the reality on the streets were diverging, leaving citizens unsure of what to trust or where safety truly lay. Barricades appeared where none existed before. Road signs directed traffic into confusing loops. Streets that had been familiar suddenly transformed into unpredictable labyrinths. People walked in circles, encountering the same patrol vehicles, the same blocked intersections, over and over again. It was as though the city itself had become a maze, designed not for navigation, but for observation, conditioning, and control. Every step felt predetermined, every turn monitored. At first, alerts were simple, instructing calm evacuation or standard compliance. As the hours stretched into days, the wording shifted. Phrases like, "Remain vigilant," "Do not deviate," "Follow instructions precisely," slipped into otherwise normal-sounding messages. Each broadcast was subtly different, almost as if the city were adjusting its language based on the reactions of its citizens. Calm reassurance became psychological pressure, an invisible force compelling obedience. Attempts to leave the city were met with immediate obstruction. Roads closed without notice, buses rerouted endlessly, checkpoints appeared with no explanation. People realized quickly that escape was impossible. The city itself had become a cage, a controlled environment where every move was accounted for, every attempt at evasion subtly thwarted. The drill was no longer optional, it was inescapable, and the walls were invisible but palpable. Schools, libraries, municipal offices, they all became repurposed as emergency operation centers. Uniformed personnel moved through these spaces with quiet precision, maps and monitors tracking movement on the streets in real time. The purpose of these hubs was never explained, but their presence radiated authority. Citizens walking past them sensed a subtle threat, a reminder that the city was now operating under a logic that was no longer theirs to question. Every intersection seemed to host surveillance cameras, silent and unblinking. Residents soon realized that no matter where they walked, their movements were recorded. Attempts to locate operators failed, and the devices appeared self-contained. The omnipresence of observation altered behavior almost immediately. Pedestrians walked differently, paused less, spoke quietly. The city's gaze was constant, invasive, and inescapable. A local shopkeeper attempted to ask authorities whether the drill was still ongoing, and the response was polite but evasive. She was advised to remain indoors for her safety. The next day, she was gone. Her store remained untouched, her family reported no contact, and neighbors whispered about her disappearance. It became clear that questioning the drill had consequences, some subtle, some absolute, and the silence of dissent was growing. Darkness brought no relief. Streetlights flickered unpredictably, emergency sirens echoed in empty streets, and faint mechanical hums filled the air. Sleep became fragmented as the city's operations infiltrated dreams, with alarms and instructions replaying even when eyes were closed. The night itself had become part of the drill, blurring the boundary between the city's control and the residents' subconscious perception. Radios, cell phones, and even old transistor sets began receiving alerts at irregular, unpredictable times. Messages overlapped, contradicted previous instructions, and sometimes repeated backward or in distorted fragments. It became apparent that the drill was not merely external, it had infiltrated every channel of communication, weaving itself into the fabric of perception and disrupting the sense of linear time. Those who tried to flee or ignore the drill eventually conformed. Subtle forms of coercion, unexpected obstacles, misdirections, or inexplicable interference, forced people back into compliance. Resistance became costly, not through overt violence, but through the relentless, omnipresent manipulation of the city's structure and behavior. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, citizens internalized the drill, participating without conscious consent. Barricades seemed to anticipate movement. Vehicles attempting alternative routes found their paths blocked by barriers that had not been there moments before. It was as if the city itself observed and adapted in real time, ensuring compliance through impossible precision. Every attempt to escape reinforced the notion that the environment was no longer static, but a living system actively enforcing the drill. Uniformed personnel patrolled silently, issuing no verbal instructions unless absolutely required. Their eyes followed, their movements precise, unwavering. It was impossible to gauge intent, and their presence alone conveyed authority and implicit threat. The act of being observed became oppressive, an ever-present reminder that deviation, even in thought, was unsafe. Street displays began showing numbers, arrows, and cryptic symbols.